Wake up! Get up, you didn't take a shower. Let's go, work time, let's go! Why are you going so slow? Work faster! Faster! Let's go! Pick it up! What is this?
Read all this right.
Identification card. The real lives of real Holocaust survivors. Name Sophia West. Date of birth February 23rd, 1927. Place of birth Villa Numanacha, Romania. Sophia was born on a prosperous Jewish family in a village near the Hungarian border, known for its Winkelmann and carriage wheel industries. The village had many Jewish merchants. Her father owned a lumber yard. Sophie loved to dance in the large living room of their home as the older sister Agnes played the piano. 1933 through 1939. The father believed in a Jewish homeland and sent money to Pasadena and plant trees and establish settlement there. When I was 10, I was sent to school in a nearby Orade because our village and our elementary schools, I missed my family, but studied hard and I swam and ice skated for fun. Thought we heard about the roundups of Jewish after the Germans invaded Poland in 1939. We felt safe in Romania. 1940 through 1941. Hungary annexed our region in 1940. By mid-1941, they joined the German forces. We were forced into the Orgada ghetto in May 1944, and then deported to Auschwitz. In August, my mother and sister and I were moved hundreds of miles north to south on the Baltic coast for forced labor. The prisoners were asked to entertain the German soldiers at Christmas. I danced the music and the ballet corpet and a costume fashioned from gauze and paper. I earned extra food for this and shared it with my sister Agnes. Sophie and her sister escaped while in forced march in February 1945. Her mother and father perished in the camps. In February 1949, Sophie immigrated to the United States.
Identification card. Name, Wellek Lukensburg. Date of birth, February 1st, 1923. Place of birth, Dąbrowa Górnicza, Poland. Wellek grew up in Dąbrowa Górnicza, in an industrial town in western Poland. His father, Symitra, was a wholesale meat merchant, and his mother, Rosilla, served as a president of the local chapter of the Women's International Zionist Organization. Wellek's older brother, Zilmo, was a dentist. The Lukensburgs were among the several thousand Jews who lived in Dąbrowa Górnicza. 1933 through 1939. Like many other children in the town, Wellek attended public school because his family was very religious. He did not attend class on Saturdays in observance of the Sabbath. At school, Wellek was beaten by his classmates and called a Christ killer. Local anti-Semites also mounted a boycott against Jewish stores in Dąbrowa. When Wellek was 16, German troops invaded Poland. On September 3, 1939, Dąbrowa was occupied and Jews there were subjected to discriminatory laws. Furs and other valuable items were confiscated and of Jewish business and were identified then seized. 1940 through 1945. In 1941, German officials forced the town's Jews into a ghetto. The following year, Wellek's parents were deported along with other Jews from Dąbrowa to the Auschwitz-Birkenau killing center, where they perished. Zilmo was injured in forced labor and sent to the death camp. In March 1943, just a few months before the ghetto was liquidated, Wellek was transported to the Belhammer camp. Later, he was transferred to the Gluckwitz, a labor camp that became part of the vast Auschwitz concentration camp network. There, he befriended Hinda Cholwitz, a fellow inmate. In January 1945, the prisoners were sent on a death march. Wellek and the other male prisoners were taken to the Sachsenhausen concentration camp, and from there evacuated to the Flossenburg and Regensburg camps. In May 1945, as U.S. troops approached, the SS abandoned the prisoners on the death march to Austria. A German farmer found Wellick on the side of the road and turned him over to the Americans. In October 1945, they reunited with Hinda in a displaced persons camp. They were married on March 2, 1940.
Identification card. Name, Ida Gurenbaum. Date of birth, 1926. Place of birth, Starochoice, Poland. Ida was the second youngest of 9 children born to religious Jewish parents in Starochoice, a town in east central Poland. Their small one-story house served as both the family's residence and their tailor shop. The tailoring was often done in exchange for goods such as firewood or a sack of potatoes. Ida often helped her mother with chores around the house. 1933 to 39. Ida's father died at home on a Saturday in June 1939, shortly after returning from synagogue. He had lain down to rest when suddenly blood ran from his mouth. Her brother, Chuna, ran for the doctor, but when he returned, their father had already died. They buried him in the Jewish cemetery outside town. Ida's mother and older siblings kept the tailor shop running. That September, German forces occupied Starochoice. 1940 to 45. In October 1942, SS guards forced the town's Jews into marketplace. Ida, who had already forced labor at a nearby factory, was lined up with the able-bodied, along with Chuna. They were marched to a nearby forced labor camp, where Ida was put to work serving food to the Polish workers when a typhus epidemic struck the camp. Ida contracted the disease. Unable to work, she was sent to the barracks for sick prisoners. Chuna visited her daily, often bringing her rags to pad her painful bed sores. With no medicine or doctors for the sick prisoners, Ida died of her illness after 3 months. She was buried in a nearby stone quarry. Ida was 7.
Selma Schwartzford, Sophie Turner Secretary. Date of birth, September 2nd, 1937. Place of birth, Lviv, Poland. Both of Selma's Jewish parents, Daniel Schwartzford and Laura Litwak, had been raised in an industrial city of Lviv. As many different nationalities lived in Lviv, Selma's mother and father could speak many languages: Polish, Russian, German, and Yiddish. In running his successful lumber business, Daniel also occasionally used English. 1933 through 39. My parents married in April 1935, and I was born 2 years later. My father was afraid that there might be a war and wanted to move the family to safety in Britain. But my mother didn't want to abandon her parents. In September 1939, when I was 2 years old, the Germans invaded Poland from the west while the Soviets invaded from the east. Lviv fell under Soviet control. 1940 to 44. In 1941, the Germans occupied Lviv. On the day of my 5th birthday, my father disappeared. My mother and I moved to a small town called Barbosa. She told me my name was Zofia Timicho, that we were Catholic, and warned me, never tell anyone we're from Lviv, never talk to strangers. We became practicing Catholics. One day at school, my teacher said Germans and Jews were bad. The Germans because they killed the Poles, the Jews because they killed Jesus. I asked Mother. She said she knew some Jews and that they weren't all bad. After the war ended, Selma and her mother immigrated to England. There, Selma learned that she was Jewish. She eventually became a doctor and settled in America in 1963.